Hello. Today I will be sharing with all of you a project that I have been working on for almost a year. It started out as a study for a qualitative research class, but progressed into what I hope becomes a community project on the Dene Nation. But first, a little about myself. Yate, Shi'e Winokabige Yanishye, Gloganishle Dobetani Bashichin, Ashine Dashiche, Dotogline Dashinale, Akotego Dine Asan Nishle, Ado Ta Dine Nishle, Do Dine Bizad Be Yashte. Hello, my name is Winokabige. I am of the Weaver Zia clan, born for the Within His Cover clan. My maternal grandfather is of the Salt People clan, and my paternal grandfather is of the Water Flows Together clan. These clans define me as a Navajo woman. I am a member of the Navajo Nation and a speaker of the Navajo language. My presentation is titled Nishle, Exploring Indigenous Identity and Counter-Storytelling Through Social Media. In my language, the word Nishle means I am. In my Dene culture, I am is an identification term that represents our Navajo identity. We are born with two clans, our mothers and our fathers. This declaration of clans emphasizes a sense of responsibility the parents have toward their child and also necessitates a type of responsibility by the child to their parents, family, and community. But what exactly is identity? Even more so, what is Indigenous identity? What is identity? Identity is a complex, multidimensional, and controversial topic. Many forms of identity exist: community identity, culture identity, language identity, racial identity, etc. Several forms of theory also exist as to how identity is constructed, from racial identity development to multicultural identity development. Simply put, or not so simply put, identity is a person's conception and expression of their own and others' individuality or group affiliations. But what about Indigenous identity? How is Indigenous identity developed? According to one scholar, Hilary Weaver, there are three types of Indigenous identity: self-identity, community identity, and external identity, which make up her self-proclaimed model of Indigenous identity development. Self-identity can be represented by how one person may identify themselves by clan affiliation, by region, or more broadly as Native American or as Indigenous. For example, as Dene, we identify each other by kinship. By doing this, we are showing respect, unity, and belonging to our family and community. Next is community identity, which is having that sense of place and sense of belonging to a specific society or group of people who share that identity. According to Dr. Gregory Kahete, a sense of place is an extension of thought and being. It is a place that holds our memories and the bones of our people. It is the place that made us. Lastly is external identity, which is how identity is portrayed by non-native people. Identity defined by blood quantum and through federal and tribal definitions are factors associated with external identity. For example, the Navajo Nation requires that individuals who wish to acquire Navajo citizenship must have a blood quantum of 1/4, whereas the White Mountain Apache tribes require individuals to have a blood quantum of 1/2. Self-identifiers is another form of external identity and closely connected to Weaver's first factor. Yet, the use of self-identifiers such as American Indian, Native American, and Aboriginal are politically constructed terms for Indigenous people that the federal government uses as labels to validate political legal relationships with tribes. However, Indigenous communities have begun to use traditional names as community identifiers instead of the politically constructed terms commonly used for Indigenous people. Some groups find this change as a step forward toward cultural pride and survivance. Although scholars have examined Indigenous identity from different facets of identification, linguistic, cultural, community, and self-identity, one component of Indigenous identity that has yet to be explored is the construction of identity through technology and digital spaces. This is where Project Digital Storyteller began. In the next few slides, you will see quotes by two bloggers, which I use as examples to describe Weaver's concept of Indigenous identity development. by acknowledging oneself as a part of a community, a culture, a history, while also acknowledging that sense of responsibility toward their community and toward Indigenous peoples as a whole. Although I utilized the framework of Indigenous identity construction to see whether identity was being developed through blogging, I think the real findings of this project were in the awareness these bloggers had in the issues that were happening in Indian country. Many forms of propaganda were found on different bloggers' pages, from propaganda such as exist, resist, indigenize, and decolonize, to artistic pieces and photos of street art found in their own communities. Some even spoke about the issues happening in their own communities. One blogger spoke about the meth problem in her Indian community. She said, "Meth is destroying so many Indigenous communities. I grew up in a place where meth addiction is extremely common. I've never seen it so bad. It hurts my heart to see so many natives fending for that, and it makes me angry to know that there are non-natives out there that exploit and take advantage of the high rates of substance abuse in our community by targeting natives." These blog platforms also served as a great way to share knowledge with others, as a place for counter storytelling, which allowed Indigenous people to tackle social issues, offer support, and use the authority of text to reshape their own and others' beliefs and ideals. In a way, an online community identity was formed. Indigenous youth are using social media platforms as a way to create digital communities with others who share similar interests. Tumblr is only one type of platform where the community is being created. When you look at the findings, you may notice that all of these participants follow each other's blog. They share the same content, have the same beliefs and ideals, share the same opinions, and reflect on a lot of the same issues. As stated before, community identity is having that sense of place and sense of belonging to a specific society or group of people who share that identity. For some of these bloggers, their sense of place is found within two locations, in their tribal community and the online native community they created. This gave me the idea of creating Indigenous Storytellers, the new generation. In our culture, storytelling is often used to educate the youth on the important principles necessary to live a life of Pojong, a balanced, wholesome life. Storytelling is also used to pass on traditional stories, ceremonial stories, legends, and to promote a Navajo worldview. In fact, a Navajo is considered very rich if he knows his legends, folktales, and ceremonies. For this program, I plan to create a space where Diné youth are able to tell their own stories. I have worked with Navajo youth on the reservation and have learned that the youth's voice is not valued in our Navajo community. Many older community members believe that our youth are simply not interested in their cultural teachings or learning their language, which is not the case at all. For this program, I plan to create a space where youth could gather together to discuss their concerns, challenges, and issues that have affected their communities. I want to create an outlet where youth can express themselves creatively and to convey their own thoughts about their experiences with culture, language, and representation. Basically, I want my Navajo community to understand the cultural and linguistic connection these Indigenous youth are trying to create or already have, but hide it because of shame. Right now, this program is at the proposal stage. Thankfully, I have received so much support for the implementation of this program. I just hope I receive the same support from the Navajo Nation as well.